Hello my friends, welcome to an overview of the B Kurd. And you could actually think of this overview as a review of Kurd scales in general, but this particular one is on the B Kurd. This is a Rav Vast that's been offered probably for 5 years now. And within that 5 years I've come to absolutely love this scale. It's an instrument along with the G Pygmy, which I also recently reviewed, that I bring with me every time I perform because I have so much material written on this scale that it just makes sense to bring it. If I had to choose two scales to bring with me on an event, I'd probably choose right now the B Kurd and the G Pygmy. Because between those two I probably have, multiple hour sets filled with these instruments. So, as you've probably heard if you're watching this video, the Kurd scale is an instrument that is proposed to be more difficult than the B Celtic, or the D Celtic for that matter. I disagree with that. I think that the half step in it provides a lot more opportunity for scale movement or root note movement. But we'll take a closer look and talk a little bit more of that at the end. So let's take a look at the B Kurd Rav Vast. Alright, so as you'll note here on the Kurd scale, we have an extra note on the top that's different than other Ravs. For a while, they were calling it a double ding, and what Rav meant wasn't that there were two ding notes or center notes, they just meant that there was a double note at the top. So hopefully this clears up the double ding terminology there. There's not a double ding, there just happens to be two extra notes, or one extra note, but there's two in one pedal area. As I was saying, the Kurd scale is just the B Celtic scale with an extra half step in the way. So if I had a B Celtic, it would sound exactly like this. The note that makes this different is this half step right here. And that's G in this case. So the notes just by themselves. So as I mentioned, the difference between the Kurd scale and the Celtic scale is just one note. And this is important because it really opens up your ability to play chordal music on here. And the funny thing about handpan scales is, unlike a lot of music written for other instruments, having a note that's out of the scale that you're used to really does open up more movement for you. So that note that's different is the second position note, the 2. And this is an F, from an F sharp here to a G. And this half step is what sets you up to be able to play a lot of chord progressions. I find that having that half step, as small of a change as that is, really makes a big difference in what I'm able to play. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of songs that use a lot of chordal movement, and also a couple of songs that are a little more meditative, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that. So to further illustrate what I was saying before, this scale makes use of a really interesting triad on the bottom half. And that's what kind of gives it the electronic music feeling to it, is that it has this minor, it feels a little more minor than the Celtic minor does, even though they're both almost the same exact scale. And because of that, when you change that bottom half, it's very different than something on the B Celtic, which I'll show you right now. Just to give you a direct comparison between the B Celtic and the B Kurd, here's the B Celtic. And the B Kurd. On the Kurd, the octave note is on the 4, and on the Celtic, the octave note is on the 3. Here are two quick pieces playing the same exact thing on the B Kurd first and the B Celtic, give you a sense of the sound of the bottom 3 notes as a progression. And on the B Celtic. So in many of the examples I just gave to you, you'll notice that the movement of those songs is focused around really the bottom 3 notes as our root notes. This is the strong point of this scale. I'm able to pick sort of a progression or a series of notes on the lower part of the instrument and really mirror it melodically well on the top. There's a lot to say on both sides of the instrument, both the melodic half and the more chordal section of the instrument. And just having that extra half step opens up a whole array of other things that you can play. The B Celtic is a fantastic scale. I love it. It's another instrument that I bring with me all the time. But if I were stuck with only being able to bring a couple instruments, I would bring the Kurd because it gives me that option of an extra half step. If I wanted to play this like the Celtic as well, all I would have to do is shift my songs up 1 note. And I could play the same exact thing on the Kurd as the Celtic. It would just mean modifying existing pieces if you were converting from a Celtic to a Kurd scale. But it's a great scale for percussive players because it works well when played kind of randomly or improvisationally. It's a fantastic scale for songwriters because for people with a guitar and string instrument background like myself, it's going to make sense and your brain's going to know like, oh, I understand how I could connect this triad to this triad over here. I find writing is very easy on this scale just because of those half steps on the bottom. And it, in some ways, it's less open-ended than the Celtic, which I think is why some people find it more difficult. That half step means that you need to pay attention to how you resolve things. And by resolve it, I'm meaning if I'm playing, it wants us to finish a phrase or close off a phrase on the 1 or on the 4. And on this one, the octave note is to the left of center. So it's this note right here. And the 5th is down here. So you have to be a little more mindful of where you resolve, whereas in the Celtic you can kind of just aimlessly hit notes, and as long as you land on a center in the end, it's going to feel connected. So is it more difficult than the Celtic? I would say not. But does it take a little more mindfulness? Yes, I would say you have to be a little more aware of where you're going. But that is why I offer song-based music lessons, where you can learn to start thinking like a musician and not just as a percussionist. So I encourage anybody who's interested in being slightly more mindful in their playing and being aware of the movement of your scale to give the B Kurd a try. That's, again, one of the instruments I bring with me whenever I'm performing anywhere. And it's a great challenge for people that are familiar with the Celtic scale and looking for something a little bit different than what they already have. So, thank you guys for watching. If you have more questions about the Kurd scale or any other scales, be sure to let me know. And if you're looking to buy a Rav, you can use my code REWILD at checkout on the Vast Drum website or the EU Rav website as well. Great to see you guys. Hope you're well, and let me know if you like this sort of content. Talk to you soon.